All right. Ah, testing, testing. Testing. Okay, nothing's working on my. Okay. Well, as expected, um, stuff just doesn't want to work for whatever reason. But I thought it'd be a good time for another unforced error. Probably gonna have to clip this up later. Um, but let's talk about it. So this one's very important, especially for my young black men out there, because if you do not heed this one, if I'm just being honest, if you don't heed all of them, especially this one, your life will be absolutely fucked for the rest of your life. This is a fact. This is not a threat. Not even really a promise. It's just a fucking fact. So, let's talk about the Sistahood.
Put some respect on my name. You understand me? When y'all saying my name, put some respect on it.
So, pardon the introduction, or the untimely introduction. Android's looking very well right now. Apparently, I got a pandemic phone. I thought it was a good idea to get a new phone when there's a chip shortage. Boy, did I learn my lesson. Right? Well, anywho, let's talk about the subject of today. This one, it should hit home with all of you. Yeah, absolutely. Every single one of you. If you are black and you have a penis, if I'm just being honest, this is really global, but I'm talking specifically from those of us in America, but honestly, this is global. The sisterhood is global. If you aren't aware of the sisterhood, you must become aware of it. That is what this one is about. Being aware of the presence or the existence of the sisterhood. Some of you might ask, what the hell is that? What is the sisterhood? Well, it is not your friend. It is not here to benefit you. It is actually here to benefit specifically black women. And a side effect of that is women in general, because, yeah, white women take advantage of this as well. The emasculation of black men to make them into subservient men has been honestly the goal to some extent of women in general. But black women have literally taken it upon themselves to degrade and to some extent emasculate, sometimes completely emasculate their boys. Keyword boys. Because really, it starts in childhood. For reference, if you think about a lion tamer, the best way to tame a lion is you don't take a full-grown wild lion and try to tame it. No. In fact, you actually kill it, if need be. Or you just completely separate the cubs from it. Yes. If you need to, you absolutely kill or completely separate the full-grown male lion from the cubs, maybe even the female lions in this scenario, in order to tame those cubs properly. Sometimes you can defang them if need be to completely take away their ability to really harm you or kill you. You know how some people declaw their cats as well. You can do that as well, effectively taking away their ability to really harm you in any way, shape, or form. But at the same time, when you take that cub lion, it has no representation, no representative into how to become a full-grown, actual alpha male lion. This is what the sisterhood has done to the men. This is why this is a problem. And this is why I say to our young black men out there, you must acknowledge the sisterhood, its existence, and that it is not here for your benefit at all. In addition to that, it is actually here to benefit off of you. The graveyard is full of men that have died for the sake of the sisterhood. Yes, this extends to the men, because there are and always will be those simpish, weak men that have been completely indoctrinated by the sisterhood to do their bidding all the time. I think the most famous case, especially now, is the slap heard around the world. That whole controversy. You know, the Will Smith and Jada scenario, that situation. Oh, protect black women, and guess who they're using? They're using the pawns of the sisterhood. Because these women, they know better than to get their own hands dirty. Why throw away their lives when they got guys that are more than willing to do it for them? I mean, shout out to the sisterhood. So yes, the sisterhood primarily benefits black women. Well, and when I say benefit, I don't really mean benefit them, but try to benefit black women, because it actually is a failure. It actually fails at doing so. But it is here to try to benefit black women by turning black men into a subservient class. I might link some videos of Dr. T.S. Johnson where he talks about it with other educated black men, and how it has been, how can I say it? How that whole sisterhood and the methods they use have been developed psychologically to dominate and turn their young boys into subservient men. I'd call them pseudo men. These men that they are separated from their fathers, that alpha male lion in that prior scenario. You know, the way to tame a lion is to actually tame the cub. You don't try to tame a full-grown lion, which is why the women do away with those. Well, in reality, it's actually the men that do away with the women that are the problem because those men don't deal with those women. But in their eyes, they claim that they the ones that don't deal with those men that are the quote unquote problems. When really it's just the men that are like, hey, um, you're not the type of woman I want to begin with. Oh, remember the lie to me, broadcast that I did, as well as women love to win. Yeah, that's a lot of that going on. And this one, this is why everything ties together. But they have it out for you. So why acknowledge the sisterhood? And who is part of the sisterhood? I talked about, it is here to try to benefit Black women. Who's part of the sisterhood? All Black women. All of them are part of the sisterhood. Each and every one. Shout out to the all police. Fuck you guys dearly. All Black women are part, to some extent, of the sisterhood. They will adhere to the code and do its bidding when necessary or when the time comes. All of them. I have further affirmation, as I've always thought this. I've always saw this as a child growing up, and I've always wondered what this is. And of course, as usual, the women would all lie to me as a child and make it seem like, no, what they're really doing isn't really what they are doing. No, they love me, even though they absolutely would dance on my dead body after they get what they want from me. No. And as well as the men, the pseudo men, of course, whom would do their bidding and help maintain that lie along with them. Oh yeah, y'all think I didn't see y'all? Oh, I saw y'all. All you weak examples of men. I saw y'all. There's a reason why these women choose to produce with you. There's a reason why these women choose to produce with you. Because they know that you'll allow them to use the children as pets. You'll be easy to game. You remember the excuses I gave in the prior Unforced era, the bastard babies? No baby is born that a woman does not want to be born. That's a fact today. Yeah, those weak exclusive men, they adhere to the sisterhood. They are the pawns of the sisterhood, unfortunately. And to them, good luck, because I already know your fate. They'll be dancing on your bones. Now, why is this important? Like I said, if you do not choose to believe or adhere to or even acknowledge that it exists, you will be at a severe disadvantage. Because when I say all, I literally mean all. That means your mama. That means your mammy. That means your to some extent, maybe even your grandmothers, because, there was an older generation that was a little bit more resistant to it. But pretty much every woman that was brought up or raised within the whole, after the 1960s, if I'm just being honest, to be honest, probably even the 1940s or 50s, right around the time the first wave feminism started to, evolve into what is now the third wave feminism. Yeah, that whole thing. All of them. Because you will think that they will be giving you advice or trying to help you, when in fact, no, they are trying to turn you into their servants. And some people might think, oh, that's crazy. I wouldn't believe that. Well, yeah, you can think that, but guess what? I also thought it was crazy that a mother-in-law would take sides with her daughter-in-law instead of her own son. I thought that was crazy too. I thought human nature would mean that the mother would take the side of her son because it's her son, right? No, the sisterhood won't allow that. In fact, I'll give you some pointers on how to identify. I might have to make this into a whole series, but one of the pointers, one of the most clear indicators of the sisterhood, I'll just give you two of them, maybe three. But the first two, one, always take the woman's side. Now that woman, you can pretty much put in there black woman because, like I said, the sisterhood is for black women. So always take the black woman's side, which is why I said in that prior scenario, which is absolutely true, that if you are a young black man, if you are a black man in general, if you are married to a black woman, and there's I'm gonna talk about that later too. If you are married to a black woman, she is part of the sisterhood. All the females in your family, if something happens between you two, do not be surprised if and or when they take her side. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter who's at fault. It does not matter. They will. Do not be surprised if and when they take her side. That's number one. Always take the woman's side. What's number two? I think it should be obvious, but it has to be said. Number two, and this is why it's important to acknowledge the sisterhood, because one of the top two reasons they exist is utter contempt for you, specifically, especially, especially black men, especially black men. There are some in the sisterhood where I'll say a good deal where they will treat other men, white men, Hispanic men, better than they will black men, but black women hold, because remember we're talking about the sisterhood here. They absolutely have this special place for black men when it comes to their utter con, when it comes to their utter contempt for men in general, especially black men. And this manifests its ways in this in so many different ways. So many different ways. Oh well, that's crazy. Why would you say something like that? Blah 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 blah. Because it's sisterhood, bro. Like I'm trying to. Like I said, if you don't acknowledge the sisterhood, good luck. Because you will try to trust a woman. You will try to trust your mother, for example. You will try to trust somebody who is part of the sisterhood, and there will be a moment in your life where you meet someone else, i.e., another young black woman, and your family will be like, "Oh yeah, get with her, take care of her, do for her, everything for her," and they won't give a shit about you or any of your struggles. Why is that? Because when you're part of the sisterhood, the only way to exist in it as a man is if you have a woman, i.e., a black woman, which is why, when it comes to interracial dating, the stigma and the treatment of men that date interracially is much, much different than the women that date interracially, specifically within the black community. Black women date out, it's whatever. Usually the sisterhood is like, yeah, do you, sis, right? But let a black man date out. They will absolutely hate your guts. Why is that? Because you can no longer, you aren't a pawn of the sisterhood. You're supposed to get married to a black woman, so you're her pawn. That's how it's supposed to work. But when you marry a non-black woman, your authority or their ability to exercise certain authority, because let's just be real, marriage benefits the women far greater than it benefits the men in America, especially in certain states. Let's just be honest, because of your role as a man. But when you are married to a non-black woman, you are that leverage that would be given to a black woman if she marries you isn't there, which is why it has been demonized for black men in general, especially since my lifetime, to ever date, deal with any other woman other than black women, because They know that all of them are in the sisterhood. It exists. It is what it is. I mean, that is the black branch of the gunocracy. If you don't know what a gunocracy is, it was the word of the day. Look it up. It is pretty much how the black community is governed and run by the women. Of course, with the help of the government, historically as well. But yeah, it absolutely is. You remember that saying? There was rain in the mountains. You remember that saying? And I did a couple days ago. Well, that rain in the mountains was probably like back in the 1930s, 40s, when the high rate of single motherhood in the black community. Although it was not the majority then, but it was still higher than in the black community than was the white community. Well, that was the rain in the mountains because that trend just continued. It absolutely continued to where it is today. Damn near what 80% of our kids raised in this crap single motherhood households, so that training is placed in you early while you're young, while your father isn't in the house. So you can be potentially indoctrinated by the sisterhood. It is what it is, guys. It is what it is, ladies. They will try to fight it. It doesn't matter what And to be honest, it doesn't matter what I say because the sisterhood they have their ways of getting around it. Actually, I'm gonna make a I plan on making a video about one of those ways that they use to get around it. Using that in every, especially when it comes to women. Like I said, rule number one of the sisterhood is always take the woman's side. So if you ever say anything that's negative about women, yeah, they will absolutely try to chew your head off. Some A good deal of the time, Matt, in a loud and not so friendly manner, right? Sometimes they'll do it a little more under the radar. I guess more politely sometimes. And then, of course, the men are the scapegoats. The problem is always with the men. Somehow, some way, it was a guy. She's a hoe because some guy must have did something to her, etc., etc. It's a never ending. There's sign language. There's deflection. Oh, they love that. Oh, they love that deflection, man. I swear. It can be effective. It can be a somewhat effective technique. Not perfect, but it can be effective. But I do have an example of because I know there's some people out there who might be like, but middle child, aren't you married? Yada yada yada. Guys, I'm not gonna go back on what I said. All of them are part of the sisterhood. Some way, shape, or form, it is in all of them, especially if they come from a broken household, meaning mama was not married to daddy for an extended period of time during her upbringing, if ever. All of them. All. So, let me give you an example. Okay. Now this is actually a personal, real story that happened. I want to say maybe 2 3 years ago. I want to say 2019. Me and my wife were engaged. I do believe my daughter was on the way, if not here. It might have been 2020. I'm not sure. But essentially what happened Um, if you guys don't know, I've pretty much diagnosed my mother as a bipolar narcissist. Of course, she's never got any therapy and never officially got diagnosed as such, but she is very much bipolar and she is very much a narcissist, which women tend to have narcissistic tendencies anyway, but I'm talking about full fledged narcissists. Now, it is dangerous when you identify narcissist, and well, I don't know if I want to say unfortunately, but I revealed my hand. I pretty much fairly young. I want to say when I was 17, 18, and had just got to college, I pretty much let my mom know what I knew of her. That I did not believe everything she told me, which, like I said, they will lie to you. You know, don't just believe everything. I'm skeptical of everything. You know, that's just how I am. I'm always. I have a scientific mind. I'm always skeptical of anything someone just tells me. I have to look it up for myself. But like I said, people and women are people will lie to you, which is why I'm always skeptical of something, especially if there's no proof of it. So there's some stuff that my mom might tell me that I can't technically prove, right? But let's just say that she's offended that I just don't believe her because she's my mom. And that's another thing with the sisterhood. The sisterhood, they always want to make women put women on a pedestal. They favor that because that's what they want to do. That's the plan to make you the servant. Believe everything women say, no matter who it is. Just believe it and do what they say. That's just how it works, right? But she was a bit offended that I didn't just believe everything she says, and I questioned her. Of course, I was out of the house at this point, so I wasn't you know, I was. I mean, the consequences. I mean, let's just be real. It's not like I'm expecting to inherit much, but let's be real. What consequences, right? But I'm not a complete and total dick, even though I've been called a dick. But let's just be real. I'm a, I guess I can be abrasive to weak individuals, right? But I don't just believe things. I don't just believe everything. I'm always skeptical. I always question things. I look at the world in a bit of a pragmatic. I'm pragmatic, a bit cynical, if I'm just being honest. I am. I admit to that. But I'm aware that my mom knows that I was aware of her. I was aware of her ways, and I was aware that she was willing, absolutely willing, to lie to me. And she didn't like that I would occasionally not believe things that she would tell me. You know, things about my upbringing, her intentions, how to do things. She always boasts about her credit, but she never tried to help me with my credit. I had to learn myself how to get my credit above 700 and now on track to 800, right? I had to learn that myself. And surprise, surprise, a lot of the crap she tells me was not how to do it, right? But this was very, this one faithful day was very interesting because if you're not aware, if you aren't, how can I say, if you aren't an easy pawn of the sisterhood, it's like a breaking in. I guess you heard the phrase "buck broken," right? For guys, but there's a way of breaking you in, like you break a horse. And I was never that guy. It was never. My mom knew that I wasn't broken. To some extent, she actually respected me for that because I wasn't weak. If I'm actually her, if things were to go south, I'm the one that would take over for her as a power of attorney because she knows I'm capable, competent, and I am the most, I guess you could say, most capable, competent child she has currently, right? But at the same time, she knows that I'm not easily manipulated and that she does not have that stranglehold on me as she would like, because I don't adhere to the sisterhood or the code, right? I'm a threat because of that. So on one end, she knows I'm her best option, but on the other hand, she doesn't like that I'm not. part of the sisterhood. I'm not a pawn. She doesn't like that. So of course she tries. She tries to get me to go over there, and this is the fucked up part. She tries to get me to go over to her place, and when I get over there, she always wants me to do stuff. It could be minor, it could be stupid. Oh, I can't get this thing done on my television. She always wants me to set something up on her TV. Something stupid and dumb, like, oh, I need my VCR plugged in. Can you plug in my VCR? Now, mind you, some of you guys might think this is minor, but remember, I said every time I go over there, she tries to get me to do something for her. Now, remember what I said. They want to make you into servants. And what's one thing a servant does? You do stuff for your master, unquestioned. Now, mind you, I'm running through the psychology of this. So there's a reason why every time I go over there, no matter, even if it's just for her to spend time with my daughter, her stepdaughter. I mean her granddaughter, right? I'll bring her granddaughter over to see her, and no matter what it is, she always will ask me to do something stupid, run to the store to get something, fix the TV. And it's never really one thing because hey, can you hand me that cup? I'll give her the cup, and then it's like, oh, well, can you go back and cut the grass in the backyard? Mind you, this isn't my place. I don't live there. I don't do anything for her. Now, some of you might think, oh, it's your mom. No, she's got my younger brother there. He can cut the grass. She has always cut the grass because she divorced my stepfather. So that was, I cut the grass when I was younger all the time. And she also cuts the grass. She hires people to cut the grass. Well, I don't want to say hire. Let's just say my mom has a way with guys. So she can actually get guys to cut her grass for her, right? But she always wants to ask me to do something. I could be dressed in a suit, and she'll ask me to go cut in perspective. And this actually happened. I could be dressed in a suit. I came over there just to bring the my daughter over there to see her, spend some time with her. Completely normal. And then she'll ask me to do some sort of manual hard labor, like cut the grass in a suit or something, like straight up. Because some of you guys thinking like, oh, it's your mom cut the grass. No, I didn't come over there to cut the grass. If she wanted me to cut the grass, she could have asked me to cut the grass. But did she? No. Instead, I come over there for one thing, and then she wants to see if she can get me to do something on her behalf, which is the entire point, which is why she does it. I have no problem with it because most of the time I have my way of dealing with it, which is I just give her a look, and then she understands that, okay, now ain't the time, because she knows that I know what she's doing, which can be dangerous. Like I said, when you expose a narcissist, it can be a bit dangerous because there's no telling what they might do. But she knows, and then she'll back off once I give her the look, like, really, really, chick, you're gonna try and do this. But this one fateful day, and this has never happened, nor has it happened since. My mother tried to break me. And some of you don't know what I mean by that, but my mother tried to mentally break me. I believe at the time, I was shifting careers. 2019 was not a great year for me. I was let go the same day my daughter was born. I was unemployed I had enough savings to last the months I was unemployed, but I had to do what I had to do. And my mother knew this. Everything, and I mean everything I have since I was damn near 15 years old, my clothes, my accolades, everything I have because of me. I've had to do it. My mom might know doctors and stuff and lawyers and stuff. Do you think she gave me their information as referrals? You think she tried to help me out on my career path? Hell no. Because remember, she knew I was a threat from the jump. She had no reason to try to help me do better financially. If anything, she'd want me to be not financially successful so that I'm dependent upon her. i.e., easier to indoctrinate me for the sisterhood. But the most fucked up thing about her trying to break me, the most fucked up thing about it wasn't that she tried to do it because I expected it. That I mean, let's just be real. All the little minor stuff, like her trying to get me to do all this little dumb running around for her, I mean, that was expected. But here's the fucked up thing about it. She did it in front of my wife. It was me, it was my mother, and then it was my wife. At the time, I believe she was still my fiance, but it was my wife. And the crazy thing about it, it was a blessing and a curse. It was a curse because my mother tried to indoctrinate me into the sisterhood in front of my wife, and my wife didn't try to didn't try to. Well, I mean, it's not her place to real. I'm not gonna say it's her place to protect me, but let's just say my wife didn't try to back me up. If anything, she was actually shocked. She was shocked because I had told her about my mother, and this is why I say it's all women, because whether you think, because most, let's just be real, women will try to say I'm not like the rest of them. They'll try to make themselves seem special in some way, shape, or form, which is, that's what you're supposed to do, right? Right? I mean, you know, but this is why I say all of them, because up to this point, I had been trying to tell my wife about my mother and how she was, and my mother was in complete my wife was in complete denial. Oh, she's your mom, she's not like that, she wouldn't do that, etc., etc. Of course, you remember what I said about rule number one. Always take the woman's side. Oh, she's your mom, she would never do that, etc., etc. And then this one fateful day, my mother tries to break me in front of her. Now mind you, my mom, you remember how I said sisterhood, all women, it's all women? Of course, it's my mom, another black woman, and me. Because that's, she's assuming my wife is part of the sisterhood, which she does have some of that sisterhood hardwiring in her, unfortunately. Like I said, all black women have it, unfortunately. It's all of y'all. Of course, you got to fight it to get over it, but it is all of you. So this is why my mother had no concern doing what she did in front of my wife, because she assumed my wife was part of the sisterhood because she's a black woman. My mother absolutely tried to completely mentally break me. Everything I had achieved up to the point, she tried to tear it down. She absolutely tried to destroy she tried to emasculate me completely as a man. And pretty much, how women usually say when a guy abuses them, they try to give him that "you ain't shit" talk. Pretty much that's what my mother did. She pretty much tried to give me that "you ain't shit without me" talk, even though most of the stuff she has is because of her ex-husband and my father paying child support. But she tried to give me that "you ain't shit" talk in front of my wife instead of cursing my mother out, as I did have a right to do that. I instead logically told my mother what I thought of her at that moment. Told her that told her pretty much without cursing, of course, because mind you, it is my mother. I'm not going to be completely disrespectful and that kind of thing, especially in front of my wife. I did it with a level of decorum, right? And I just pretty much told, look, gave my mom that look, and essentially paraphrasing here, like, how dare you do this like this? And then I walked out because that was the best thing for me to do instead of trying to get into a shouting match with a woman, because that's really what she wanted to do. She wanted to some extent, she either wanted to try to mentally break me or get to me and make me react emotionally. And then, of course, she would have probably called whoever, either one of my brothers, or my father, or somebody in the family, be like, "Oh my God, my son did this to me," and yada yada. Like I said, the best option for me was to tell her what it was, and then walk out. Now, my wife, she sat there the entire time my mother was doing this in shock because everything I had tried to tell my wife about my mother, she adhering to the code of the sisterhood, right? That rule number one, always take the side of the woman, right? She did not believe me. She didn't believe me. And then she witnessed that. And then she actually believed me. Things started changing for the better. This is why I said it was a blessing and a curse. It was a blessing. It was a curse because my mother did what she did. It was a blessing because it actually helped me handle things with my wife. It actually helped me get her to acknowledge the sisterhood to some extent. Of course, not perfectly, of course, because guys, you got to remember this is hardwired as a child. Society pushes them and promotes this to them to the point where you have black women adhering to third wave feminist ideologies and they themselves claiming not to be feminists. Like it's the most fucked up reverse psychological bullshit you ever heard. Which is why I said, to some extent, in this broadcast, it is an unforced error if you do not acknowledge the existence of the sisterhood. It is because it absolutely will cost you something. You will marry a woman thinking that she's not capable of doing something, and guess what guess what most of the guys will tell you who were divorced by their wives and were absolutely taken advantage of in every way, shape, or form. Their wives lied on them, told them they hid them. Oh, well, she told me she'd never do that, and I believed her. Like, guys, do this for your own safety. Just acknowledge and also acknowledge the guys that also perpetuate this shit. Because there are the guys, the pawns, that think that it's smart or wise to do this dumb shit. Acknowledge the video that I posted in the description. That whole and mind you, this is a video that just popped up on my damn feed because remember when you speak the true, it's just out there. But I acknowledge the video of the groom who's literally being walked out like a fucking dog on a leash by his wife during their marriage. They're doing their marriage dance or whatever. You have to realize some of these guys, they will absolutely degrade themselves. They are the martyrs of the sisterhood. So don't doubt what a guy is acknowledge what they are willing to do. Acknowledge the slap heard around the world. Will Smith literally sacrificed his career for something so stupid as trying to win back his wife by looking gangster or some dumb shit. Like these guys will do completely irrational dumb shit. They will do a life sentence for it, which is why they're so dangerous. Which is why you must acknowledge the sisterhood at all costs. Or it'll be an unforced error on your part. Yes, I tell you, it's all of them. I tell you about this. I literally tell you the personal story I had to go through with my mother, my wife, siblings, your auntie, all of them. Jason Black talks about this in detail. That's why a lot of the videos and descriptions are actually his, especially in his Patreon. He talks about how the hoe code or whole culture, the thought culture. I refer to it as a thought culture really, but how these women are absolutely willing and able to over sexualize themselves, especially on social media. All you see is a bunch of jiggling butt cheeks and whatnot. The OnlyFanners. They will always take the woman's side and practice either subtly or abruptly misandry, their contempt or hatred for men. You are a scapegoat. And that's really why it's so dangerous because they will absolutely dance to your bones. And it is an unforced error. This one, I mean, like I said, I'm gonna get some flack from this because, like I said, this is the thing we're talking about. I should this damn video might get flagged if I'm just being honest. I'd be surprised if it doesn't, because this is the sisterhood we're talking about, right? You don't say then what's the rule? You don't say anything bad about a woman, especially a black woman who's part of the sisterhood. You don't. Now, you say anything bad about the guy, it is what it is. But that's the sisterhood. That's the code. That's just what. That's one of those. That's like rule number one and two. Of course, there's many others, but that's the basics of it. Acknowledge the sisterhood, guys. As a young black guy, you must acknowledge this. You must acknowledge it, because unfortunately, you might choose to trust or believe someone in your family, whether it be a woman or one of these pseudo men, one of these emasculated pawns of the sisterhood, right? Whom, of course, was most likely raised by a single mom. But you might believe something they tell you that will absolutely put you in a unfavorable position. Remember how I said, now literally, my mother literally prevented me from getting a job. I I had to fight my own mother to try to get a job. And for the longest, I had to think about that. I had to think about, like, why the hell would my mom not want me to get a job to not actually get out here? Because mind you, and mind you, this wasn't something that my father had to tell me. This was something that was just inherent in me. I wanted to get out there and earn. I was seeing all these guys out there working and earning, and of course, some of the guys had cars and stuff, but I was actually interested in entrepreneurship and business and stuff like that. And at a young age, I think I was like 15, 16 years old. I think as soon as I turned 16, I think I was like, I can get a job somewhere, but I needed my parents' permission, i.e., my mother's permission, because she was my guardian. And I'm literally arguing with my mother to get a job. And the funny thing is, one of the tropes at the time that I was aware of was how lazy black men are, how these young black men don't want to work and do stuff and earn money and stuff. And here I am in a house arguing with my mother as to why she won't allow me to get a job. But you want to know why I believe she didn't want me to get a job? The same reason why she tried to break me that day, which is she wanted me to be dependent upon her for as long as possible because she knew I was a threat. Now, mind you, if she had her hands on me, if she knew I was a pawn of the sisterhood, oh yeah, she absolutely would allow me to get a job most likely because she knew I would have spent my money on her most likely. But she knew that I was not easily persuaded. She knew that I was not a pawn of the sisterhood. And she knew that as soon as I got my chance and opportunity, I would get the hell away from it and make sure I gain enough power, influence, or nobility not to have to adhere to the law or the code of the sisterhood. She knew I was trying to do better. That I would not that I would not adhere to the sisterhood. That I would use the whatever money or whatever I did acquire for my own benefit to build for myself and my family, my future family at the time. And this is me at fucking six as a teenager, guys. I had to hustle candy. That's how I got my clothes. All my clothes were hand me downs up until I had to, because my mother, of course, adhering to the sisterhood, she'd take my sisters and them shopping with that with the child support money. Oh yeah, her and my sisters, they was balling. They'd be going out to Show Mars and Panera Bread and shit. I'd be at home with my brothers, plural brothers, eating hot dogs and shit and noodles. That was normal in my household. The girls went out shopping and eating in all these restaurants with the child support money, and the guys we were stuck at home of course, in the house playing video games. Unfortunately, that's what we drew to because my mother wouldn't let me get a job. So we naturally uh, clung to video games for the early part of my life. And I talk about how that could be dangerous because it gives you that false sense as a man, it gives you that false sense, or as a young man, it gives you that false sense of accomplishment when really you don't have anything to show for it. I talked about that in the Trials of Men uh, uh, episode, and how video games can actually, feed it. No, they're actually designed to feed upon that desire to fix problems and solve problems. That's literally what video games do. That's why guys like them so much. But yeah, let me redirect real quick. Let me bring it back. So to bring it back from the video games and stuff, I as a young guy, as a young man, 14, 15, 16 years old, and my mother remembered this conversation because she actually sat me down after after my sister decided to become a two-time baby mama, like I warned my mother, might actually happen if things didn't change in the household. And some of y'all might be thinking, "Oh, that's bullshit." No, no. Before I left for college, I want to say I was 16 going on 17. Of course, I was 17 when I got to college. I was 17 going on 18. But I actually remember having a conversation with my mother one fateful night. It was late. The others were in bed. I was up, and I was having a genuine conversation with my mom. And I was expressing my concerns because I had seen that my younger siblings were having issues in school. They were, of course, they didn't have nowhere near as much drive as I did. Then maybe I was just different because I was the only one that had a different father than them. But I was able to experience certain things outside of where we lived. My father would take me places on the better side of town here and there. He actually lived on the better side of town, right? So I was able to experience things that they weren't to some extent. And I saw a bunch of the warning signs that I had seen in a lot of the other children in the hood that will inevitably lead to single motherhood or underperforming son. And my younger siblings, my older brother, he actually did fairly good. I mean, he as soon as he got out the house, he was gone. This Negro, this nigga, I'm gonna go ahead and you. This nigga, he was as soon as he got out the house, that nigga was gone. But I don't blame him. I don't blame him. I mean, of course, he had jungle fever like a motherfucker. Of course, my mother did not like that. To some extent, her smile, even though she was giddy, or at least tried to appear to be, she was not satisfied or happy that he ended up marrying an older white woman and moving halfway across the country. Because remember what I said about black women and marrying outside. When you're marrying a non-black woman, you are no longer adhering to the sisterhood, to the sisterhood's code or or commandments, right? So, like I said, he left the house and was gone. He did some little slick shit here and there. To some extent, he was still somewhat a bit of a pawn for my mother, but he made it very clear, like, yeah, I ain't with that bullshit, and he went off and did his own thing. Me, on the other hand, before I left the house, I did want better for my younger siblings. I I still do. Even my mother, if she can change her ways, I would like her to, but I already know, you know, things are the way they are going to be. So a young me, as a young 16, 17-year-old teenager, I had a talk with my mother, and I let her know I don't like the way the household's going. you're not. Now, mind you, this was just me having a genuine conversation with my mother. Like, and remember, like I said, my mom knew I was different, and she actually respected me to some extent because she understood that. She understood I was different. I like learning. I like learning a lot of useful stuff. So she actually listened to me. She actually listened to me. Go figure. Well, when I say listen to me, I don't mean she actually did what I said should happen, because that did not happen. No, but she actually did. She actually listened to me. It might have been a tactic. Maybe she thought if I saw her listening to me, maybe she thought that that might bring me around, or she might be able to use that. Like I said, I'm always skeptical, right? But we actually did have a talk, and she actually expressed that she acknowledged my concerns and everything. I told her, "Hey, you're spoiling these girls. They're not going to turn out proper. You need to back off a bit. You're kind of just leaving, me and my younger brother. You're kind of just abandoning us. You're going out here spending all the child support money on. We need clothes too. My younger brother, he was suffering a bit. He still is to some extent. He was suffering a bit because he was a bit, he was the youngest boy, right? And like I said, my older brother, he left the house, he was gone. When I left the house, I was gone too, and he was kind of just there by himself with three other girls. So mind that, a one young boy in a house with a grown woman whom is his mother, an older sister, and another sister that's they're twins, right? Yeah, he's on his own. He's on his own. He did get kicked out the house a time or two. You think anybody else tried to help him? No, I did try to get him on the straight and narrow, but which to some there is some hope for him. I will say that. But he's made some errors, some unforced errors. I'm not gonna lie, he did. He's made a couple, and he is showing some promise, but we'll see how that goes. But you know, he didn't turn out like me. I mean, I was resistant to it. I mean, from the jump, if I'm just being honest. But he turned out as you would expect a young boy whom is constantly emasculated and feels like he has to do certain things to feel more masculine or macho. That's an unfortunate side effect of these young men. They're to some extent they can be fairly irrational, and they just don't. Sometimes they just react. Sometimes they just react emotionally. But this I do have a lot of experience with. If you haven't, if you haven't acknowledged that already, this I do have experience with. I talked about the prior Unfest era. That does relate to this subject. The bastard babies, why that happens, why it can actually be ideal for a woman to have a child outside of marriage and to separate from the man or the father or the potential husband. Jason Black talks about it too. He breaks it down very well, as always. But yeah, guys, I don't make these unforced error videos just to talk. I make them so that you can be practical. So I make them to be, you know, pragmatic about the situation we are in today. No woman is here on this planet for you, a young black man. If you're watching this, no woman on this planet is not trying to use you. No person on this planet wants to do better for yourself better than yourself. Meaning, if you ever try to believe any type of person that lies to you, that tries to say, I want I want something better for you than I want for myself. They are lying to you. No one should want to do better for you than yourself. And if you try to believe someone that says that to you, you will do what they want you to do, which is to entrust them with whatever it is they say and believe them and follow after them. And then, unfortunately, you might commit one of these unforced errors that I talk about and then put yourself in an unfavorable situation where you are under the command of the sisterhood, whether it be your baby mama, whether it be a recalcitrant woman that you're dealing with, or if you ever get married to one. Oh, Jesus. Good luck to you. But yes, please acknowledge this. Do not take this lightly. This is something that I was privy to it, but I needed further confirmation, and I have affirmation of it. Plenty of it, a lot of it, a significant amount of affirmation as to what I originally was thinking as a young man, acknowledging that things were definitely different in the black community, that the women were definitely held on a pedestal that the black men were not. And the boys and the girls were treated very much different. The expectations were very much different. These are things I saw as a child. These are things I acknowledged. And of course, everyone around me lying about it, trying to smooth it over to make it seem like it wasn't what it was. And then finally I get older and I find the affirmation I very much needed to confirm what I suspected, what I've always suspected. The sisterhood exists. Acknowledge it, realize it, believe it. And yes, all of them, every single one. There might be levels to it, but all of them have, in some way, shape, or form, especially rule number one, which is always take the woman's side. All of them adhere to, if not all, some of the rules of the sisterhood, especially that rule number one. All of them. And I'm going to end this one here. So please acknowledge the sisterhood, because if you do not, you are committing an unforced error, and you will leave yourself open to other potential unforced errors. Thank you for watching. Until next time.
お前はもう死んでいる。